Welcome back to CEO Money. I'm Michael Yorba, your host, here with Mervyn Price, also our co-host on the show. All right, Mervyn, who have we got today? Brent Nykoliation, right?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, a company, NextSource Materials. Brent, are you with us?
I am. How are you, gentlemen?
I'm so happy you're here. Thank you for being there. Brent, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right. You have got a wealth of background with you. It looks like Nestle, Home Depot, Whirlpool. I mean, these Fortune 500 companies have probably gave you a great training ground for what you're doing now, right?
Yes, correct. And I've certainly departed from that and into a very exciting industry, and it's the mining industry. So a lot of people often wonder why a guy like me is doing what I'm doing, and it's a great background for me to be able to talk to shareholders and take something which tends to be usually technical and then dumb it down and explain it to the investors and the analysts and all the larger corporations who invest in our projects.
Can you give us a little bit of background on you? And then Mervyn has got a whole litany of questions for you.
Sure. Well, I'm Senior Vice President of NextSource Materials. We are actually an American domiciled American company, but all of our management team, including myself, reside in Canada, in Toronto, and we are developing very rapidly our Molo graphite project in Madagascar. Our company has been in existence for over 10 years. We are on the Toronto Stock Exchange on the larger board, so we're the only graphite project on the TSX, and we also trade as well on the over-the-counter QB in the United States.
Okay, that's NEXT, right?
NEXT on the TSX and NSRC on the OTC QB.
Got it. All right, Mervyn, some big questions that you had for...
Certainly. I'm fascinated. You mentioned graphite. Well, when I was a boy growing up, that was the core of a pencil. That's about all I knew about graphite. Tell me, more recently, I'm hearing more about it. Why is that? What is this? What has suddenly become special about graphite that you're mining it?
Yeah, well, graphite, I mean, people obviously with the pencils, but graphite is actually one of the most incredible materials known to mankind. It is the only material that gets stronger as it gets hotter. And it has a melting temperature of 3,600 degrees Celsius. And what that does is it actually has allowed it to be used as a critical element in steelmaking. And there's over 200 products that we use on a daily basis that we would not have in existence if it was not for graphite. And a lot of that is tied to the automotive, so your car, all kinds of critical elements in your car, the tools you use, all kinds of interesting things that we use on a daily basis are there because of graphite. One of the things, though, that graphite has been getting a lot of attention lately, along with lithium and cobalt, is its role in batteries. And graphite is unknown to people, but it is one of the most crucial ingredients in a battery, and it sits on the negative side of the battery, the anode side. When it comes to lithium batteries, it's getting a lot of attention as an energy mineral because graphite, when it comes to lithium batteries, it has a huge amount in terms of its raw input. So there's a rule of thumb, and there's roughly 10 times more graphite in a lithium battery than there is lithium. And it sits, again, on the negative side of the battery, and the positive side of the battery is the lithium. So what's happening right now with that is the emergence of electric vehicles and energy storage. And everybody understands what's happening with electric vehicles, and I'm sure they've heard how this is now proliferating. Graphite's role right now is particularly strong in the traditional steel markets, but it's the demand forecasted that's coming with electric vehicles that has the investor base very excited.
Yeah, I can see that. In evaluating a project, how do you evaluate a graphite project coming from?
Well, graphite projects are somewhat more difficult. These are not like silver and gold and copper projects. Graphite is an industrial mineral. A lot of people don't realize that graphite, it is extremely easy to process. It's extremely complex to sell. When it comes to graphite projects, every single project is unique. When it comes to graphite, for example, grade, when people talk about what's the grade of your deposit, grade is not king. It's all about one thing. It's about what type of graphite you have. And again, there's two types of graphite. There's mines out there that actually have what's called amorphous graphite. That's what the pencils are made of, and lubricants and brake pads. And that resembles almost like talc powder, very, very fine graphite, very, very small. But then there's also another version of graphite, which we have, It's called flake graphite. And flake graphite is the form of graphite that goes into every single application of the 200 that I mentioned. Flake goes to all of those applications. That's the type of graphite you want. And in order to understand if you have the right type of graphite, you have to do a tremendous amount of tests and metallurgical work to make sure that you, A, have the right type of graphite, and number two, do you have the right type of flake. And it comes down to evaluating a project. Two things matter. It's the size of your flake and the purity that you get from your flake when you process it. So the larger the flake size, the higher the purity, the higher the price you can sell your graphite for.
Merv's got another question, but real quick on a follow-up on that one. Are there regions and zones where you're finding better quality graphite more so than others?
Yeah, great question. So historically, and many people don't know this, so your listeners are probably not aware that the United States in particular deems graphite to be a critical mineral status. So does the UK, so does the European Union. And in Canada right now, there's only one mine that exists in Canada. Actually, there's two. There's one very small one, but really there's one major mine that's been operating now for over 30 years. But 100% of the graphite that the U.S. brings in is imported. You do not have any processing or any mines right now that are in production and have not been for several decades.
Wow.
So the United States is 100% reliant on other countries for their graphite. China is the elephant in the conversation, as usual. They produce probably 80% of the world's graphite. Canada and Brazil would be very significant players as well, but on a smaller scale. But Madagascar, unknown to people, is actually one of the regions in the world that has always been known to have one of the highest quality graphites historically in the world, and they've been shipping graphite for over 100 years, but always in very small quantities. Our mine that we're trying to build, our discovery, our deposit, is one of the largest discoveries in the world, but it'll also put Madagascar on the map and vault it to probably the top third producer in the world.
Brent, there's going back to that. In the marketplace, there's often wild misinformation about what graphite is, what it's worth, how you price it, how you sell it. It's very tough for investors to do their homework. Do you have any recommendations as to how they should research this?
Yeah, so there's a lot of, again, the misinformation and the hype that's come around the graphite is all to do with the electric vehicles, et cetera. And what you're seeing out there, about 3 years ago, there was 15 graphite projects that people could probably go and find on the stock exchange. And today there's over 120 companies, junior companies, trying to sell the aspects of their graphite. And why that happened was that graphite started to get a lot of momentum about 3 years ago with the emergence of the electric vehicles and obviously with Tesla, and the fact that people realize that graphite is going to play a significant role in the energy storage and the battery. And what's happened is you've seen a lot of projects go into and acquire graphite projects without understanding graphite at all. Our company particularly has gone out and done years of background information before we even went and tried to develop this asset, which is world-class. And many projects out there just have not done the proper requirements. So again, every graphite deposit is unique, and you have to determine through millions of dollars and lots of studies to make sure that you have the proper graphite and that your graphite doesn't have any of the materials or any type of contaminants in there which would rule it out. People will be amazed to know that, in China, for example, 90% of the graphite deposits, which they're very rich in, actually don't have the proper graphite to go into consumer electronics. One of the key things that people are not aware of is graphite sits in every single consumer electronics in some way, shape, or form, and not just the battery, but, for example, iPads, your cell phones, whether it be an iPhone or a Samsung, every single flat panel television, every solar panel, every computer screen has a sheet of graphite in it. And it's a graphite foil, looks very much like aluminum foil, but that's made with 100% what's called jumbo flake graphite. And only certain deposits actually have large enough flake size that they would be deemed to be able to have that type of material be pulled out and utilized. And that material has to be very pure. And again, to have those tests done, which we have done in past, very few projects would actually qualify to actually be able to have graphite that goes into those specific applications, let alone the electric vehicles, and of course into other applications which are required for steel. Again, you have to have certain flake sizes, and you have to have certain purities in order to even go to these markets. And our project, we've been blessed with it, has been verified for every single top demand market, and that's the consumer electronics, that is the EV batteries, and that's certainly the steel market. And that's also been verified by end user companies, and that's very, very key.
Brett, we're going to take a break right now, but when we come back, I'd like to talk about the graphite market today versus tomorrow. Do you mind?
Absolutely.
We'll be right back on the other side of this break with Brent Nykoliation, Senior Vice President, Corporate Development, NextSource Materials. On the other side of this break, nextsourcematerials.com and OTCQB in SRC. We'll be right back on CEO Money.